Our NFL insider, Adam Schefter, joins us here thanks to Death Wish Coffee. Adam, the news comes out that Odell Beckham Jr. suspended for the game Sunday night against the Vikings. Was the reasoning for the suspension one isolated play from that game or the buildup of those 3 personal foul calls against him?
Well, I think it's all of those, to be honest with you. I think it's a case where primarily it comes back to the one hit that we all saw, the one lunge, helmet-to-helmet hit. But I also think it's a case where, in this particular instance, this went on all game long. And it was a brutal display, and that's uncalled for. It was embarrassing. It was malicious. It was inexcusable. It was a lot of things. It was stupid. He could hurt his hand, too, the way he was punching at Josh Norman. His hands are his currency. So we have a situation there where, obviously, it resulted in the one-game suspension of Odell Beckham Jr. I would imagine and expect that he's going to appeal it. I'm sure it'll be an expedited appeal. I'm sure the appeal will be heard tomorrow. There'll be a ruling either tomorrow or Wednesday, and we'll see what either James Thrash or Derek Brooks decides.
Adam, you used the word embarrassing to describe Odell Beckham Jr.'s action on the field. You also used that word this morning on SportsCenter to describe the officiating in that game. Do you believe if Odell Beckham Jr. was thrown out of the game against the Panthers, he would not be suspended for this Sunday night game?
Yeah, I think that's probably the case. It's a moot point right now, but typically over time when we've seen officials take action and eject players, then they haven't been disciplined usually further. So if he had been thrown out of that game, that probably would have been it. But that wasn't the case. This is a case where the officials allowed them to play on, and because they played on and were not disciplined, the NFL took action today and took action in a rather severe and harsh manner.
Are we going to get any discipline for Josh Norman in this, whether it be for the 2
Well, he's not going to get suspended, but I'm sure he'll get fined, but there was no suspension there at all.
Tom Gazalski and Brady Farkas fill it in here for Armin Levesque on 104.5, The Team, and 104.5theteam.com. A busy day for Adam Schefter today. Adam, you touched on the appeal process and maybe speed up. When will we have a decision whether or not Odell Beckham Jr. will be eligible to play on Sunday? What time frame are we looking at?
Well, again, I think it'll be heard tomorrow. My guess is it'll be heard late morning. My guess is there'll be a decision by late afternoon, no later than Wednesday. They have to have a decision by Wednesday, assuming that is the case, that he does appeal and it is heard right away and it is an expedited appeal. But that's what I'm fully expecting right now, that you'll have an answer by maybe this time tomorrow, certainly by Wednesday.
Switching gears, Shefty, the Bills missed the playoffs for yet another season. Rex Ryan says everyone in the house is being evaluated. What's next for Buffalo with that kind of front office turmoil?
Well, again, I think there's been a lot of speculation about Doug Whaley's future and what's going to happen there, and we'll see what happens with him. I think there's a question about whether he'll be back. I don't believe there to be a question about Rex Ryan. I know some Bills fans, have voiced their displeasure, but the fact of the matter is they hired him. I think they're going to stick with him. We'll see whether the GM survives or not. That's a question you ask about any team that falls short of its playoff goals at this time of the year, and we'll see what happens there.
What do you believe is going to be their off-season moves? Now, that's with the guys, the coaches, the GMs. Is there somebody they're going to target in free agency, or fan bases are hoping that if we bring in this guy, if we bring in this quarterback, our luck may change and we may be able to get back to the playoffs? Well,
first and foremost, you have to figure out who's making those decisions. Right. We have no idea who's making those decisions this season, so it's difficult to speculate on what a team's going to do when we don't know who's going to be in charge of those moves. Maybe it's Doug Whaley, maybe it's not. And then you have to see which players get to free agency. Like at this time last year, if I told you, they're going to go after LaShawn McCoy and Percy Harvin, you wouldn't have thought that possible. So to speculate on December 21st as to who's they're going to be signing on March, who knows? We'll see. They certainly need some help in some certain spots. I think Tyrod Taylor has taken some steps this year and shown that he can be somebody that they can rely on. He's been a good quarterback. Obviously needs to make improvements, but they need to get better, I think, in certain spots. Maybe, what would I say is their biggest weakness? I mean, they have to make sure Tyrod Taylor takes the next step, more consistency out of their defense, which hasn't been as good as it has been in recent seasons. Just kind of get things together in that regard.
Couple of injury-related notes out of the NFC West. The Cardinals lose Tyrann Mathieu to a torn ACL. What's their next step?
Well, look, there is no next step when you lose a player like that. They've been in this situation before. He tore his left ACL in December of 2013. Now he's torn his right ACL. They've got a lot of good players in that defense, Rashad Johnson, Dayon Buchanan. But this is a special, unique talent who makes plays and is constantly around the football, can serve as a return man. So you just don't lose somebody like that and think that you're going to replace him. It just doesn't happen that way.
Is Marshawn Lynch going to come back for the surging Seahawks?
Well, they said today that he will not practice this week. So it's really a race against time right now. They'd like to get him back by the end of the season. Not going to be this week. We'll see if he can make it back next week. My guess is it's going to be tough. Kristen Michael ran well yesterday. Bryce Brown was okay. Bills fans know him, and I would imagine they'll keep running those guys and hope that maybe they can get Marshawn back in the postseason, but I don't think they're counting on that.
Two teams competing in the AFC playoffs, the Bengals and the Colts. What's the time frame on the return for Andrew Luck and also Andy Dalton?
Andrew Luck already ruled out for this week, will not play against the Miami Dolphins, which means we could see Charlie Whitehurst on Sunday in a game the Colts have to stay alive in the AFC South. And then, of course, Andy Dalton already has been ruled out for this week. A.J. McCarron will start for Cincinnati in the Bengals Monday night game 1 week from tonight in Denver against the Broncos. We don't know who the Broncos quarterback will be. Gary Kubiak, the Broncos head coach, said today that they're starting from scratch in their quarterback search, so we'll see what winds up happening with their quarterback position.
Adam, we know you're busy. Just get you out of here on this. Monday Night Football tonight, Lions versus Saints. Give us a reason to watch tonight's matchup.
Well, both teams have been eliminated from the playoffs. Both have typically been exciting offensive teams. Both have questions. Both have made changes this year. The Lions firing their offensive coordinator, replacing him with Jim Bob Cooter. The Saints firing their defensive coordinator, Rob Ryan, replacing him with Dennis Allen. Those two sides will be matched up against each other tonight. Questions about what the Lions are going to do with their new GM consultant, Ernie Accorsi. Question about whether Sean Payton will be back in New Orleans, whether the Saints would entertain trade options for him. So lots of questions about both teams as we go forward.
Adam, thanks for the time today. Appreciate it. Take care and happy holidays.
You got it, guys. Happy holidays and Happy New Year.
Again, that's Adam Schefter there, our ESPN NFL insider covering everything. He's the one who broke the news about Odell Beckham Jr.'s one-game suspension. And Adam Schefter every Monday at 4:45 is brought to you by Death Wish Coffee. If you're looking for that late holiday gift, you're looking to bring something. If you're a big-time coffee drinker, you want to say, you know what, in the new year, I want to try myself some new coffee. Check out Death Wish Coffee. They, every single Monday, help us bring Adam Schefter, one of the smartest minds in all of the National Football League, right here to the Capital Region on 104.5 The Team.